Hi, guys. I'm Ruth. I'm the co owner of the Lexica Training Institute, where in just 1 week, we train you how to teach any language that you're fluent in. So it's great to see you again. This is episode 2 of our teaching tips series of videos. It's great to be here recording this. So today we're going to share with you 6 tips about how to use the guided discovery technique or method when you're teaching a session in your class. And also I'm going to share with you what my favorite setup is when I'm teaching live, like on Zoom, when I'm doing an English class. Just at the end, I will share that with you. So, but first, let's just talk about our last training course, our TESOL course we had in November. It ran from November 30th to December 4th. And we had people Zoom in from South Africa, from the UK, and also we had from Japan and different parts of the US and Canada. So it was really great to be with them all. And we also have a class coming up which will run from January 11th to January 15th. And we have a special offer for this class because, a lot of people think about taking the class and they think, maybe my friend wants to take it too. So let's call it our Bring a Friend offer. If you want to take our class and you have another friend that wants to take it too, well, your friend can take it half price. And just contact us and we can figure out the pricing for you, because the more the merrier, especially when we're learning together and when you're learning how to teach English using these methods or any other language that you're fluent in. So yeah, bring a friend. We'd be happy to have you both. So let's get right into the guided discovery tips or reminders, let's call them. So tip number 1 is that when you use a guided discovery method of teaching, it's really, the attention is based on the student. It's student-centered. And you might think, well, this is pretty obvious, but we can forget how much we talk when we're teaching English. And so we definitely reduce our teacher talking time when we use guided discovery methods. And point number 2 is that a guided discovery style session of learning would basically encourage the learners to take responsibility for their own learning. So that's point number 2. You're going to be coming at it from an angle of you want the students to take more responsibility for what they're learning during the session. So point number 3 is that there would be no lengthy, long explanations or introductions to the task or the lesson that you're going to have them consider. You're going to have your students basically discovering the language lessons as they go along. So basically, point number 3, no lengthy explanations or introductions to the actual learning session, which brings us to point number 4, because the guided discovery activities basically train the learners to analyze and decode the target language as they're going along. And again, there would be limited input from the teacher during the session. Point number 5 is that when you use this type of approach in your class, basically your students, because they're putting more effort in, they will hopefully remember what they've learned much longer because of the effort that they personally put in. They will retain it, but also they will retain more, hopefully, from your class and what you've taught. And remember, the next time they come to class, you can ask them questions and see how much they retain, because they have to discover it themselves. Point number 6 is that maybe you're thinking, well, this is kind of for advanced and intermediate students. But you know what? We use this kind of teaching with all levels of students, even total beginners. You could present them with a new vocabulary, a few new words, and some pictures to go along with it, and a very clear explanation of what they're supposed to do with that new vocabulary or those pictures. And they would have to kind of stumble through and figure out, well, even if it was just a simple matching exercise, match the word with the picture and have them just kind of guess it out a little bit. Again, that idea of decoding. So those are our 6 points. Let's just go through them quickly again. Point number 1, a guided discovery method is going to be student-centered. The attention's on the student rather than everyone looking at the teacher. Point number 2 is that you're encouraging the learners to take responsibility for their own learning during the session. Number 3 is there's not going to be any long explanations or lengthy introductions before you start the learning session. You give them a clear instruction of what they're supposed to do, and the task is simple, and you let them go ahead. Point number 4 was that the guided discovery activities, basically you're training your learners to analyze and decode the target language. Again, limited input from the teacher. Point number 5, you're hoping and you're guiding it in a way that they will retain more and they will remember that for longer because they put their own effort into learning. And the point number 6 is that you can use this with all levels. So you just have to make the task simple and clear. And it's good to give them a time limit too. So what would be an example of a guided discovery? And again, keeping in mind that, imagine parents that are teaching their child who's just learning how to walk. They're holding his or her hand, and the child is wobbling a little bit, but the child is their muscles are getting stronger and they're remembering how to do it. They might stumble, but if you always are there, picking up each foot, it will take them a lot longer to walk. So this is the idea, the metaphor behind a guided discovery style session in your class. And when you keep the IELTS exams in mind, many times the IELTS students, they're asked to look at a map or a graph or maybe a table of information and they have to analyze it, or they're given a piece of text and they have to do some reading comprehension, answer questions on it, or write an essay on it. So these are really real life skills that our English students and any other language really need to develop, because there will be many times when they're faced with language that they need to decode and figure out what it means. And then, of course, at the end of the session, you can come in, you can draw their attention to certain maybe grammar points that they can extract from that piece of text or that exercise you gave them, some new vocabulary. And again, you want to extract that and elicit that from your students instead of just feeding them always like this means this and what this is. And maybe you have a new song that you want to teach them. So you could say, hey, here's a song about such and such, or you could give them the text and say, what do you think this song is about, right? Let them kind of scan through and skim the text and say, well, I think it's a song about cowboys. You're right. Do you find any idiomatic expressions in the song? How many nouns are there? How many verbs do you see in the song? Any phrasal verbs? So, they are going to thaw out that text or that new piece of information you gave them, but they're putting the effort in. Call a friend, ask them what it means. No, but you get the idea that they're going to discover it for themselves. So that's guided discovery. There's a lot of information on using guided discovery in language classes. If you go to YouTube and you can do some searches, it's very popular with the CELTA programs. The Cambridge approach to teaching English as a second language, and that's guided discovery. And just as we end today, these teaching tips, I wanted to talk about my favorite setup when I'm teaching on Zoom. So as you can see, I've got my Zoom camera in front of me, but I also have a secondary monitor. This is an old monitor. It's 11 years old. It plugs right into my laptop, but it makes it so much easier when you're in the middle of teaching a class and your student says, what's a pancake? Or maybe you're trying to screen share something, a video, or maybe it's maybe some text that you want to show or a website. So you can quickly, without losing contact with your students, you can quickly just, Google or search that on your monitor. Once you have it up on your monitor, what you want to share, then you go to your share screen. And you might be thinking, oh no, now I can't see my students. So that's okay if you just take your moment. Now you're already sharing your screen, but at the little toolbar at the top, you'll see 3 dots. And if you tap on those 3 dots, you'll see show the video gallery, the video pane, and then you'll be able to see your class again. So class right there on my laptop and on my secondary monitor is what I'm actually screen sharing, what my students are seeing. And I find that so much easier. So if you can pick up, a cheap monitor somewhere and make your life a little bit easier, it's great. Of course, I always have my phone handy because my students might be saying, oh, Ruth, can you text me the link to that website. I'd like to look at that later. Or you might have given a written exercise to your student, and now you want them to send it to you. And now you want to see, what did they write during, maybe it was a journaling exercise or another writing exercise. So always have your phone handy. And yeah, I mean, I'm a bit spoiled, but I always have my my iPad ready too, where I actually have the notes of the class that I'm teaching. So that's my favorite setup. That's how I like to do it. And we'd love to hear what your ideas are for the best way to be teaching a language class on Zoom. So that's the end of episode 2, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.